And thank you again to our three colleagues. I checked with my office, and you may have requested meetings with me. I apologize if my schedule didn't permit me to meet with you before this hearing. I would welcome a chance to meet after this, because I think the odds you will be confirmed are high, and you will play central roles in our State Department and in our engagement with our critical NATO partners in Europe. Mr. Landau, as I said before, or Ambassador Landau, forgive me, your decades of engagement with the Foreign Service, your previous service as an ambassador to Mexico, I think recommends you for this role. And if I heard you correctly in your opening testimony, you suggested that mass migration globally is one of the great challenges to stability, peace, security around the world. Help me understand, in your view, are programs that counter human trafficking, programs that help families sustain themselves with productive agriculture and help reduce the pressures for migration, are those programs beneficial?
I think as a general matter, Senator, yes, they can be beneficial. I think you'd have to look program by program. I don't think you can paint with too broad a brush. And I think certainly we have been putting a lot of money into countries like Honduras for as long as I can remember, my whole life, and I'm not sure that we've seen the kind of results you would expect. So I think theoretically, yes, and I think we should certainly explore, are there programs that we can promote that are actually effective programs to limit migration?
So, Ambassador, I'll tell you that in my view, having visited a number of programs that were sponsored through the U.S. State Department and through USAID that were designed to help young people resist predation by human traffickers, reduce their temptation to join gangs, help support rural agriculture in countries like Guatemala, Mexico, Costa Rica, Colombia, were largely effective in reducing the inclination to go hundreds, if not thousands of miles and present at our southern border. I think they're wise investments, and I think it's unwise that they've been abruptly cut off. I hope we can work together on finding ways to identify and restore funding to those programs that reduce mass migration and those programs that effectively counter China and Chinese and Russian disinformation. Are you familiar with IRI and NDI?
Yes, the
International Republican Institute, the National Democratic Institute, launched by President Reagan for decades, deserving of bipartisan support, critical for sustaining, for example, a NATO ally, Romania, Moldova, not yet a member of either the EU or NATO, that are facing upcoming elections. The IRI and NDI for decades have helped counter disinformation by Russia and China and helped facilitate the movement towards being democracies by former Soviet states. Do you have any sense whether it's a good idea or a bad idea to completely shut down IRI and NDI?
Senator, I think it's something that we should certainly look very closely at, and if I am confirmed, I would be more than happy to work with you to talk about specific efforts there. Let's look at the funding streams, what they're doing, and again, I think I can certainly commit to working with you on that.
Well, I'd appreciate the opportunity. My experience over the last few weeks, and I served with Senator Rubio and voted for Secretary Rubio, has been that on the one hand, we're told there's a long review going on, there's waivers being given, but Senator Sullivan is the board chair of IRI, a Republican, Marine veteran, a big believer in IRI. They are laying people off. We don't have time for a long discussion. We need to act to restore funding and functionality to a wide range of long demonstrated bipartisan programs, from PEPFAR to counter trafficking, to counter migration, to programs that counter Russian and Chinese disinformation. Last, Mr. Regas, if I might, is it your understanding that the workforce at state should brace for Doge-style cuts that will lead to thousands of members of the civil service being fired abruptly, without cause, and without warning?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I have no insight into any plans of that nature, and to the extent my understanding is, at least from reading media reports, is probationary employees that have been let go or put on leave. I believe that's already happened.
One of those probationary employees just joined my office, a talented and capable young person who left a great job in Rome to come back to the United States to take a job at the State Department working in international religious freedom, was abruptly fired without cause. And I'll say for a young generation of potential career Foreign Service and civil service officers, I think we are causing real harm. We've long benefited from new generations of folks joining the diplomatic service, the civil service, and I think we're making a huge mistake. I think we need to look carefully at the alignment of the State Department, at whether the funds are being spent wisely, the posts and missions make sense, but to do it in the same way that the chainsaw was just taken to USAID would be a tragic mistake. We should not be shutting down missions, laying off individuals by the thousands, and canceling programs all over the world. You should not let what just happened to AID happen to the State Department. I think it would be a critical strategic mistake. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Senator Coons. Thank you to our panel. Strong showing today. You guys have done well. Look forward to moving the administration forward.